Rolex boutiques have empty display cases, and luxury jewelers are closing their doors, even as the world's most coveted watch still has buyers lining up for years. On paper, demand is stronger than ever. So why are Rolex stores suddenly disappearing? The answer is not falling sales, but something far more calculated and far-reaching. To understand the high-stakes strategy forcing even legacy retailers out, we have to look behind the polished counters and see what's really driving these closures. Rolex's reputation for scarcity is no accident. Since the mid-20th century, the company decided to limit how many watches reach the public and where those watches appear. After World War II, most brands chased volume, but Rolex built its identity around exclusivity rather than mass market appeal. Company leaders believed a watch should never feel ordinary. Instead, every Rolex in a display case had to look and feel like a rare prize. Control became a hallmark of the brand. Authorized dealers received only a modest supply, often fewer watches than they could sell. The result was a mystique that fueled desire, long wait lists, stories of customers traveling across countries, and a sense that owning a Rolex meant joining a select group. This scarcity was deliberately engineered to increase demand. Presentation was just as important as scarcity. Rolex required authorized dealers to create a showroom experience that reflected the brand's values, understated luxury, impeccable service, and a real sense of occasion with every sale. Selling more watches was never the goal. Selling the right way, in the right environment, always took priority. This philosophy guided every major decision, from the design of boutique interiors to strict standards for display and customer interaction. Scarcity, carefully engineered and fiercely protected, became the backbone of the brand's global strategy. Today's headlines about disappearing stores are the latest chapter in a story that began decades ago. For Rolex, control and prestige matter more than sheer numbers. That approach helps explain why authorized dealer networks are shrinking, why shopfronts close when standards are not met, and why access to the brand feels tighter and more curated than ever. A Rolex authorized dealer can lose its status with little warning. The authority lies in the distribution agreement every dealer signs, a contract that gives Rolex sweeping power to control its retail network. One clause stands out: immediate termination. If Rolex decides a dealer has breached any policy, failed to meet standards, or simply no longer fits the brand's direction, a written notice is all it takes. There is no drawn-out process, no months of negotiation. The dealer's right to sell Rolex watches ends on the spot. The consequences are immediate and absolute. Within hours, the store must stop all Rolex sales and remove branding from windows, displays, and marketing. Unsold inventory cannot be cleared out through discounts or sales to other retailers. Instead, Rolex exercises its contractual right to repurchase every watch at the original invoice price. This means the dealer is required to hand over all unsold stock, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars worth, directly back to Rolex. Any attempt to sell those watches elsewhere risks steep penalties, including damages equal to the original invoice value. For many jewelers, Rolex is not just another brand, it is the anchor of their business. Losing the line overnight can turn a thriving store into a financial crisis. Foot traffic drops sharply, and other luxury brands rarely fill the gap. What looks from the outside like a simple store closure is often the result of a single letter and a contract that leaves no room for negotiation. The power dynamic is clear. In the world of Rolex retail, the brand holds every card. Independent jewelers face a financial gauntlet when trying to keep their Rolex authorization. The demands start with security. Rolex expects state-of-the-art vaults, alarm systems, and high-definition surveillance, often costing between $50,000 and $250,000. That is just the beginning. Showroom renovations must meet precise brand standards, custom lighting, marble floors, and bespoke display cases, pushing the bill anywhere from $150,000 to $500,000 for even modest retail spaces. These costs arrive on top of everyday pressures: hiring and training staff to deliver flawless service, maintaining inventory levels that tie up hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital, and passing regular compliance inspections. For a small family-run store, the total outlay can approach $750,000 before the first watch is sold. Unlike large chains, independents rarely have the cash reserves or bargaining power to absorb these hits. Every upgrade is a gamble. Will the investment pay off, or will the next compliance audit bring a termination letter instead? The risk is real. Lose Rolex, and the store's main source of profit disappears overnight, with little hope of recovery from other brands. The numbers do not add up for many jewelers. Faced with mounting bills and shrinking margins, walking away or shutting down becomes the only feasible option. The cost squeeze is not just uncomfortable, it is often fatal for small retailers trying to play by Rolex's rules. In August 2023, Rolex made a move that sent shockwaves through the luxury watch world. It acquired Bucherer, the world's largest watch retailer, for $4 billion. With that single deal, Rolex gained direct control of more than 200 retail locations across Europe and the United States. This was not just about adding more storefronts, it was about reshaping the entire retail landscape. For decades, Rolex relied on a vast network of independent, authorized dealers. Now the company could oversee everything from manufacturing to the moment a watch is handed to its new owner. Industry analysts quickly took note. The acquisition gave Rolex unprecedented leverage over how its watches are displayed, sold, and serviced. Independent jewelers found themselves facing a new reality: compete with a retailer owned by Rolex itself, or risk being squeezed out. The numbers tell the story. By early 2026, projections show the global roster of authorized dealers shrinking from over 1,200 to fewer than 800. The era of the family-run Rolex shop is fading, replaced by large, standardized flagships under the direct influence of Geneva. For the first time, the company controls not just scarcity, but also the entire experience of buying a Rolex. The shrinking number of authorized Rolex dealers is changing how buyers interact with the brand. In cities where 3 or 4 boutiques once competed for attention, only a single flagship may remain. For many, the nearest authorized retailer is now hours away. Data from 2026 shows foot traffic at independent Rolex boutiques has dropped by more than 50% in some regions. Fewer stores mean fewer opportunities to try on watches, ask questions, or to build relationships with staff. That hands-on experience once set Rolex apart. Instead, buyers are steered toward larger, brand-controlled locations or directed to official, certified pre-owned channels, where every watch is vetted and priced to Rolex standards. The growth of these certified pre-owned programs offers a new layer of access, but it also tightens Rolex's grip on the market. Waitlists remain as long as ever, but the path to ownership is more centralized than before. Fewer local points of sale mean allocation and scarcity are managed from the top down. Buying a Rolex increasingly means dealing with distribution decisions made at a regional or global level. For longtime collectors and first-time buyers alike, the landscape now feels less personal and more controlled. The shift is shaped by forces far beyond the local jeweler's window, and it changes who has access, where they buy, and how relationships with sellers are formed. In Dusseldorf, the Ruschenbeck family jeweler had carried Rolex for decades. In 2026, that partnership ended with a single letter. Overnight, their flagship store lost its most valuable brand. The impact rippled far beyond the display cases. Around 100 employees received notice that the boutique would close, and their jobs would vanish along with the Rolex name above the door. Some had worked there for years, building relationships with customers who returned for birthdays and anniversaries. Now the familiar routine of polished counters and soft-spoken service was replaced by uncertainty. For many, there was no clear path forward, other brands could not fill the gap, and retraining meant starting over in a shrinking market. Stories like these played out across Europe and the United States as family-run jewelers faced the loss not just of income, but of identity and community. The numbers tell one side of the story, the people behind the counters reveal the true cost of Rolex's new direction. Today, fewer than 900 authorized dealers remain worldwide, and the number keeps shrinking. As Rolex tightens its grip, luxury's promise of exclusivity becomes real, and local accessibility vanishes. The world's most coveted watch now sets its own terms. In this new era, scarcity is not a myth, it is policy.